Let's talk about replicating yourself, aka hiring. This is a huge topic because, and it's the main reason why a lot of small businesses fails because they don't know how to hire, and nobody really knows how to hire in the beginning, or it takes a while. Sometimes it takes an expert to come in and show you exactly how you need to do this, how to follow New York City regulations, except New York State regulations, etc. um, but let's start with the basics. You'll never really be able to replicate yourself because you are unique, but you need to find somebody who can do part of what you do in the business. When you're a business owner, you're answering emails, you're doing phone calls, you're doing invoices, you're working on the website, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the making the product or doing the service, you're packaging, you're delivering, you're doing everything yourself. So I always say to pick one thing, or pick one job title, write that down, or write down a few job titles, pick one, um, and then pick a task that job title is responsible for completing. And then I want you guys to do, and I really stress this, I want you to create a standard operating procedure. I know this sounds, difficult and boring, but it will save you. A lot of people hire and they just expect somebody to do the work exactly how they used to do it without any explanation. They're like, well, you said you had experience, but you have a specific way of how you like things done. You have a definition of what success looks like. And before somebody can go in there and have their own spin on it, to get them hit the ground running, they need to have some sort of protocol, a standard operating procedure that actually explains to them a step-by-step instructions compiled by an organization to help workers carry out complex routine operations. Trust me, this will save you, and it will also help you to meet expectations, help the person meet your expectations. And the word complex is relative. Something that's very easy for you may be complex for somebody else. So you have to keep that in mind. Let me just check the chat really quick one more time. Make sure I'm not. Okay. Oops, sorry. So think of a task. And then what I want you to do is to write down every single material needed to complete that task. Then I want you to break the task down into steps using the material that you had listed previously, and then provide picture references. Like, let's actually look at the next example. And you're an assistant. You're hiring an assistant trainer. The task objective for this assistant trainer is that you want them to assist the client with push-ups and crunches. They may seem like really basic. You've been a trainer for 10 years. It's so simple. All I'm asking you to do is that, while I'm working on this other client with jumping jacks, I need you to help this other client with push-ups and crunches. Can you do that? It may seem so simple. Trust me. Write down the materials needed. You need a mat. You need dumbbells. You need 6 by 6 feet of a clear space to work, a towel, etc. Step 1, lay out the mat neatly in a 6 by 6 feet space, preferably in a low traffic area of the gym. This is where your expertise and your experience comes into play, because most people who would do this task, they would just lay out the mat and just do it. But because of your experience, because you are the CEO and you know how to do this, you may want to also add in your standard operating procedure for a task some tidbits to how to do it, not just what to do, but how. Make sure it's in a preferably low traffic area. Place dumbbells, bottle water, and towel next to the mat. See picture below. And this is pretty much how it will go, so that they have a rubric or a set of steps as to how they should complete a task. This will save you, especially when you're first starting out. Now that you have an idea of a task you want somebody to do and how you want them to do it, I want you to test out your standard operating procedure. You have to find somebody who's never worked for you or brand new to this particular industry. Give them the SOP and see if they can complete the task. Let them give you feedback and then go back and fix it. This will save you before hiring people, which is the next step. the exceptions to the SOP is when it comes to highly technical tasks or managerial related tasks. If I'm hiring somebody to help me with my Instagram or Facebook, they should already know how to do this, because I'm hiring you as an expert to do this. I don't need to write an SOP for you to help me with my Facebook or Instagram. You need to know how to do this. And that's when it comes to like doing an ad on Facebook. They should know how to do those things before you hire them, and have examples. Or you're hiring them to write you an essay or something, or article or something like that. They should have some sort of writing experience. So you don't need an SOP for that. So now that you have the task, you have the particular job that you want to have in your company, create a job ad. I challenge everyone to create a job ad. Write down the job description, write down the requirements and your core values. Remember, we talked about core values. They're not just for you, and for the client, they're also for the people that you hire. Talk about preferred experience. And what's really important is to write down what your expectations are. Be very clear about that, without being rude. Like, I expect you to show up on time. I expect you to be honest. I expect you to ask questions. I expect somebody who, if they don't know something, to ask. It's okay to ask questions, because I'll easily explain it to you. I expect somebody with integrity. Just write that down for when you're creating a job ad. And then also write the expectations that they should expect of you. You should expect me to check your work. You should expect me to be honest with you when it comes to criticizing your work, and you need to be able to handle that. You should expect me to give you free reign once you have proven that you can complete the task, and give you more responsibilities once we've built a certain level of trust. Write that in there so that when somebody's applying to the job, they know what to expect and what's expected of them. You can actually go on Indeed.com, and I think you can create a free job ad. So just try that out. And the SOP comes into play that once you start to hire, they have a system to walk into, versus just free falling. And then you're upset because you're like, wow, this is easy. Why can't they do it? It's like they didn't have a structure. So why do you need this? You need this because you get sick, people die, career changes, you want to still run your business, but you having a career change, kids, moving out of state, education, you have to go back to school, but you still want to run your business. You need somebody who can run the day-to-day operations, and you don't want to do this last minute. And most importantly, investors do not like to, they don't think it's wise to invest in one-man shows. Because that means all their money is betting on you. There are even little kids out here who have bow tie companies and lemonade stands. Their moms and dads are helping them run that business. So they're a team, and they're willing to invest in teams because they know if one person falls off, there's somebody else to carry the load. So it's really important to build a team, and it takes time. Don't rush into building a team too quickly, but you have to start at some point, and you have to recognize that if there are issues with that person's work, it's a reflection of you. You're not either explaining it enough, you're not doing good with your onboarding, or you're not explaining to them carefully what the expectations are. Once you checked off the list to make sure that you're not the problem, then you can criticize the employee. So please try it, go forth. You're gonna make mistakes, but don't hold yourself back from doing this, because it will save you. Pro tip: understanding an employee's love language. These are human beings. A lot of times people just look at staff as staff, but they're human beings that have their own lives. And you don't want to turn into the bosses that actually create entrepreneurs, because they're like, man, I don't want to work here anymore. This boss isn't appreciating me. I can go run my own business with all this energy I'm putting into it and make way more. Don't end up being the boss that people wind up running away from and starting businesses. So I only put 4 of the 5 love languages, because the 5th one is, I believe it's touch. And this is a corporate environment. You really shouldn't be touching your staff. So The first one's words of affirmation. If you have an assistant or just anybody who's doing a lot of menial tasks, it's always good to just stop and say, hey, thank you. You know, you did that really great. You know what? You were so prompt in that response. I appreciate that. And also take the time to compliment them in front of other people. If you're sitting with a client and you're there with your assistant, um, don't forget to just say, hey, you know, my assistant's going to take care of that. She's so awesome at that. That's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm so glad she's part of the team. Just, you know, people want to hear those things. Some people, sometimes it may embarrass people, but they still want to hear that you appreciate them. Some people don't, they like the words of affirmation, but they prefer a bonus. It's like, hey, if you like my work so much, give me a bonus, increase my take home, please. But find that out early on in the partnership between you and your staff. Acts of service is another great way to show appreciation to your employee, your staff. You know, let's say it's raining, it's thundering, or there's a blizzard out, and you say, hey, let me put you in an Uber to the train or to home, depending on how far they are away from where you are, because you're just saying, hey, I appreciate you. I understand it's raining and thundering outside. Let me just throw you into a cab and get you home. They will appreciate that. Trust me, they will appreciate that so much. Quality time. Quality time is important because when you constantly look at your staff as just like workhorses and you don't take the time to say, hey, we've been working really hard. Let's just take a break. Let's just go out and get some coffee. Let's get some lunch. Let's get a sandwich. And let's just talk. How are you doing? How's everything? How's home? Get to know them on a human level. You'll find out you'll find out a lot about them, and then you'll also begin to understand sometimes their issues that are affecting their work, or you'll begin to understand they'll be willing to talk to you about some issues that you have as a boss. But if you don't establish that relationship, that level of communication will never happen, and you'll never grow.